something, if you want to say something about yourself, if you want to offer something, if you have something to offer, skills or money, I don't know, please do that too. And then we're going to have our keynote, which is about 30 minutes, followed by Q&A. And we're wrapping up, hanging out a little bit, and then we're heading over to the United Ale House, which is our newest sponsor for the South Florida Tech Meetup. So they're going to give us happy hour pricing tonight again, for the second time. So really excited about that. The other sponsor is obviously the Rocket Launch, which enables us to be here. So thanks for that.
You're buying me beers. I bought them last week.
Fair enough. So let's see, just to get a feeling, who was here for the first time? All right, about 50%. That's pretty good. Very excited. Thanks for coming out. Make sure you tell your friends if you like it. Also tell them if you don't like it, because they might. Who knows? We're getting a pretty good mix of, between entrepreneurial topics and tech topics. Today we're I would define it as a tech topic, but it has a design twist to it, or a design point of view, I should say. So that should be interesting. And next month's meetup, actually, let's see, who would consider themselves a techie, first of all? Okay. All right. Maybe the big loggers, creatives, artists, service providers, those sorts, investors. All right. I at least expect to see one hand. And entrepreneurs? All right, good, most of us. Excellent. So we grew steady. We slowed down a little bit. I'm not quite sure why that is that month. Most people are in a holiday spirit maybe already, floating around, drinking a lot of eggnog. Not so much in the startup mood. But thanks again. It's for all of you, which is why we started this. It's supposed to be a community of people, and the more we have, the better it is, which is also why I encourage you to just speak up in the 30 seconds, say what you do, what you're in need of, and what you can offer. So next month's meetup, Peter Phelps over here agreed to give the keynote next month. Another completely different topic, but extremely important and exciting nonetheless, about where you get your money for your project, startup, company, whatever it might be. So definitely come out to that, and you probably don't want to miss that. So I can guarantee you at some point you will need money. So, with that being said, who wants to give a shout out? Anyone? No?
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Marius Young, for those who don't know me already. And this is my second time being here. We added ourselves, I think, in LinkedIn for some reason already. But my purpose for being here is to get to know other people in the industry. I do digital marketing a lot. I have almost 20 years of background of software development. That's all about. So I want to meet people.
Thank you.
I'll do my blur for preview for this.
Sure.
So my name is Peter Phelps. That was my picture that was up there before. So Wayne introduced me in here, and I was here with him the other day, looking around, and I agreed to do the thing next month. So basically, my background is I'm a CPA and have an MBA, and I've been in a lot of technology companies for the last 30 years, primarily as CFO of technology companies. So then a lot of them ended up in transactions. We sold them, or we sold them. They went under. They went away. Whatever it was, something happened. So recently, I've just been helping a lot of technology companies, like helping them as kind of a contract CFO, or helping them raise capital, or helping them on the board, whatever makes sense, and just trying to use my experience to help companies get going. Since my wife drove me down to Florida, I went to a town here before I was doing it in Boston for many years. And our meetup in Boston was 3,200 people, but so it's shows there's plenty of room for growth. So I'm just trying to kind of do that, try to help any way I can. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I'll see you next
I'll
month.
step in.
See you next month.
So I'm Andrew DeLushko. I'm with M Drive, and I'm looking for a CFO.
There you go. That's why we're here. Making
Share
connections.
connections. Because
Perfect.
What's M-Drive?
M-Drive. So we are a fleet analytics, predictive analysis. It's big data. It's we're pulling in literally hundreds of sets of data, and we're actually able, with 85% accuracy, predict if a driver is going to be in an accident. And it's geared towards the fleet market, not the consumer market like Progressive. And we have an 85%.
I actually know a guy that would be a perfect CFO for you, but you would never move down here.
You don't have to. No, we're a 100% virtual company.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
So
All right, so
Thanks.
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
this
right?
is what it's all about.
That's
It
why
really
we're
is.
here. You know, I'm not putting on this show for myself, although I do thoroughly enjoy it. But it's for all of you. So it has happened before. Connections are being made in meetups like that. I've seen it before. I was in New Jersey before for a couple of years in meetups, and same there. You know, thousands of members. And sometimes you just give it a shout out, and you know, 3 days later you have a patent written for free by some other member. You know, you don't get that everywhere, right? So, short introduction again. Lee, the very Lee over here, has agreed to give us a little bit of his wisdom of game development and the art behind it. I thought it was very cool. Actually, we met at a art fair, I guess, to describe it that way, and he was selling his art there, and he's a fan of pixel art. Is it called pixel art?
Yeah.
Which I think is very cool for those of you who try to get, these days we can, or recently we can get the NES Classic Edition again. I couldn't get my hands on one yet, but you know, that sort of takes you a little bit back there as well. Hoping to get one as well soon. So I would say without further ado, I'll hand the stage to you. And just need to find the presentation.
True. That's me dressed up as Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, by the way. Not just me. That was my Halloween costume. Yeah. 2 for 1.
Why is it not full screen?
No.
Alright.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for coming out. I want to thank Sven for having this or putting it together, and the Rocket Lounge for hosting it. Let's see if I can get my
Sort of. Well, I think same bit, right?
Cool.
The new scheme and everything. Kind of cool.
All right, my name is Lee Bretschneider. I'm a multimedia artist. This is from nothing to Nindie, an artist head first dive into indie game development. If you're wondering what Nindie is, that is short for Nintendo Indie Game. So it's a cute little term that was kind of buzzing around online last year. I was lead game artist on one. It's called Temple of Yog. It's actually my first time working on a video game, and I thought I'd come share the experience with you guys and give you a look inside the world of indie game development and marketing. It's not going to be too much of a technical driven. It's going to be more about workflow and, like I said, marketing, but I'd be happy to answer any technical questions you have at the Q&A at the end. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what the game is, and I'm going to try and play this trailer here if I can. Do you know what direction the...
I don't.
Okay, well that's okay. There's not too many videos in here. Oh, there it is. Okay, and then sound we can turn down probably. All right, so Temple of Yog is a game about human sacrifice. It's a Nintendo Wii U exclusive, which you'll see why in a little bit. Basically, it takes advantage of the unique hardware of the Wii U. Who in here has seen a Wii U before? You know how the controller has a screen on it? Yep. Well, Temple of Yog, it's like 2 different mazes stacked on top of each other. That's kind of like the core gameplay mechanic. So you play on your TV, and then in order to get past the different mazes that are procedurally generated in the game, you have to teleport your character down onto the gamepad, back and forth. It's a retro roguelike twin stick shooter. That's like the full subgenre title. I'll break that down for you a little bit. Retro, obviously you can see the 8-bit art style, pixel art, so the music and the look is evocative of games from the past. Roguelike is a genre of game. Has anybody played a roguelike? Cool. So roguelikes are known for their extreme difficulty, and that was kind of like the core impetus for the game itself, was that we both agreed that games are like too easy these days. I once beat a Call of Duty game while I was on the phone. And I was like, oh weird, I just beat Call of Duty 4. I gotta go. So we wanted to make a very difficult game, and roguelikes are very difficult. They're so difficult, in fact, that they feature a characteristic called permadeath, where if your character dies, you basically lose everything and have to start over. We found a fun way around that, though. I'll get to it in a little bit. And then twin stick shooter is the last part. So you use the left stick to move your character and the right stick to fire bolts. So it's a retro roguelike twin stick shooter.
That was perfectly timed.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right. Now, like I said, I had very little prior experience in this industry beforehand, so you're probably wondering how I got to work on a video game for Nintendo. I did have a couple years of animation expertise ahead of time. I actually taught animation for a little bit at Florida State University. And I also had a couple decades of experience of playing video games. So I just had a natural interest there. And right about the time that I got invited to work on this game, I was actually developing I just had a hobbyist interest in game design. So I started developing a card game to try and get into it. And then once this opportunity came up, I was like, well, I should just switch over to this video game. Probably a higher chance of success going on that. And I could always work on the card game later on my own. So how that came together was I went to the wedding of the game developer, and he had already known about my work. We had worked together on a couple different smaller projects in the past. So he knew that I was responsible in that aspect. And he just asked if I had any interest in working on this game. He had told me about the game before, and I thought it sounded like a good idea. It was unique with the two-screen thing, so I said yes, because it did seem to have kind of this unique selling point. I know the last talk, there was talk about waiting and being eighth in line to do something so that you could really nail it. But I would argue that there's also something cool about being the first to do it, But yeah, so this is basically how it works down in the whole slower capacity trailer. You can see here that when you come up to a wall, you press the button on the back of the controller, you would switch screens, and then these are two different viewing modes that we had in the game. So if you wanted to, you could always have your character be on the screen and the background would swap out, or you could actually have the character go back and forth. And this was something that I had not seen on the Wii U at all. Usually, games that are ported to the Wii U, they're not made with two screens in mind, so they have to figure out what information to put on that screen. So it's usually reference information, like an inventory or a map. I hadn't seen it being used for core gameplay before, so it was very interesting to me, so I agreed to join the development of that. This is the team right here. So this is Cody, the creator of the game. This is me goofing right in front. This is Louis. He did some voiceovers in the game, and Peter behind him is, he did the soundtrack. He did kind of the 8-bit soundtrack. Very talented guitar virtuoso as well. Plays by the name Dr. Zylog, if you're interested, if you watch the trailer and you like the music. Now, their inputs were pretty much done within a matter of weeks, they kind of submitted the work. So it was really just a core development of me and Cody working through most of the development process. But yeah, I mean, they were awesome to have on the project. Now, at the point that I came on, Cody had already developed a prototype, which I have a little video of that too. This is actually the first thing I did when I came on the team, was just kind of put together this trailer that we could show to Nintendo to kind of get the, thank you, kind of get the whole idea down. And we'll just watch a little bit of this. It's basically the same format as the last trailer, but it was nice that the prototype was already built because I could actually play through the idea that he described to me. And it had the two-screen thing. It was all done on a PC, so you didn't really have it on the Wii U. But the core idea was there. There was 4 different classes. They each had the specials that they would end up with. And this corresponded with a game design document that he had written too, which was very valuable because it really outlined the entire scope of the game and let me know as the artist what I would have to concentrate on, the full scope of what would be necessary to work on this. Now, to save time, I had initially started operating based on these sprites. These are licensed sprites. You just bought a license to, for $200 or something, and then you got a whole pack of monsters and stuff.
I was thinking, I recognized that from the Unity marketplace. I was just
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so he bought that and then made a prototype out of it. And I was trying to, since he already had the license, I was basically just trying to modify those sprites and then add my own, but I felt kind of limited with them. my ego got in the way, and I was like, I want to just wash this thing with my art. Really, that's what happened. But yeah, the sprites, they only had 2 directions. They would mirror things, so if you had like a character with a sword and they would go the other direction, their sword would, because it was a mirror image, it would just flip hands. That really bugged me. Anyway, I talked to Cody about increasing my level of work like 8 times, and for some reason he agreed. So we were off and running at that point. But yeah, going back to it, game design document, any big project you want, I think having a guiding document is a good idea. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about working on the game a little bit in our workflow and our process. There were actually like thousands of pieces of art that needed to be made for this, and we had a short amount of time to do it, so that was kind of like one of my background goals, is like figure out how to make all of these like ideals that we have, like, oh, we want to have 8 different skin tones per character, and we want to have the characters going in 8 directions instead of 4, it all adds up, plus some other stuff. So I'm going to show you a little some of the art that we made, and then I'll tell you how we kind of got it done. So these are basically what you would need to make a game. You need a user interface for your outer game loop. The outer game loop is everything that happens outside of while you're playing. So it's the start screen, any kind of like save or load menus, stuff like that, the credits screen. This is actually our character select screen here. So rather than just have like a old school, like, you know, single image of the character to select the character, we actually made this, we integrated it into the game map. So these are like the little huts that your civilization, all the classes in your civilization live in. And it's flipping back and forth between what's on the TV and the gamepad. That's why you got that color shift. But you would move your cursor, and then that tribute would come out, and you would send them into the temple to be sacrificed and blaze them. Usually you would also have a pause screen that you would need to design, but since we were trying to make the game really difficult, one kind of like prankish thing that we did was we just didn't have a pause screen, and we would actually make the pause button so that if you hit it, it would just kill you instantly. Sacrifice. And we thought that would be a fun little way to discover that. You know, like, you know, mom's calling and you go to pause the game and your guy just blows up like wherever he's standing. Which seems a little unfair, but again, we tied benefits into the game design. We'll talk about it a little bit. So this is, then you have the other user interface. This is like the inner game loop while you're playing the game. So things like a quest dialog box, you have to consider all the colors for that. This is a relic that you can take in that would, you know, change your game. You can collect relics inside, so we needed to make a slot for that so that you know what relic you have equipped. These are various bonuses that you can apply to your character. This boon point calculator, this is actually the core of the game right here. So what you want to do in Temple of Yog is you want to get 20,000 boon points with a single character. It's very hard. It's probably about like an hour of straight play. And what you would do is if you don't get 20,000 and your character dies, like before I said we have permadeath, well, it's kind of true, but it's kind of not. So your character would die, like they each have unique names and stuff, but you would actually get to save the boon points and spend them on upgrading each of the classes in the game. So you're literally using the lifeblood of the tributes that you're playing as to boost your civilization and make the game easier for you by modifying like the strength of the remaining tributes. So that's what that boon point calculator is. The things underneath are your stage indicator, so you know like how far into the game you are. And then there's a little life indicator there as well. These are the 4 characters of the game. So each one has like different special abilities. We have the cleric, who can heal themselves. The mage, which has like a flying ability that lets you get over like speed bumps basically within the game. So if you're being chased by an enemy, you can just like kind of hover over those, whereas the other characters don't have that. The thief has like a super speed ability, and then the warrior does double damage and goes into kind of a berserk mode that looks kind of cool. Now, with each character, like I said before, you have 8 different directions, 5 different states, you know, like idle, attack, run, special, die. This is just a fragment of them, and then 8 skin tones apiece. You can kind of see how these all add up into the number of assets that you need to generate. These are the different enemies that we had in the game. We have a planty biter here, which is like a stationary enemy. It's good to have a good diversity, in your enemies so that your player doesn't feel like they're always attacking the same type of enemy. So we have stationary enemies, slow enemies. This is a faster one, you can't really see them moving. This is like a glass jaw enemy where you can, if it gets to you, it's a snake. If it gets to you, it does like 3 damage, which is a lot of damage. But if you shoot it once, you can neutralize it. But it's difficult because they're so skinny. The wasp, this is like called a monster generator basically. So you have a nest, and the wasps will just keep coming out of it and attacking you until you destroy that. So you want to have a variety of experiences for your player within whatever game you're developing. Otherwise, they're just going to get bored with it and move on to the next thing. And then we have, this guy is actually the boss of the game, and he kind of spies on you from the bushes throughout. Like, what you're doing is you're conquering the wilderness in the game. So as you advance through the stages, the leaves ultimately die and become more brown. And this guy is very upset that you're like conquering the wilderness. And then he's got those little fairies that are his protectors that are basically what you have to attack in order to kill him. You don't attack him directly at the end of the game. And then there's all the environments. This here is a final art comparison with the concept art that I did for the world map screen, and it's a little small here. But I just did this on some grid paper. These are like preliminary huts. Originally the Elder Hall, which is right here, I thought we could go in a cave, but after we did some stuff within Unity and like laid it out, it just made sense to make it in kind of the center of the lake there. So, like I said, this is the character select icon, so when the game starts, the camera's actually zoomed in here. And then once you select your character, the camera moves over here, and then you go up to the Temple Zenith to go in. This is a preliminary version, early version of that screen. You can see that, is kind of, I just wanted to show this whole process. This is kind of like an early painting version that I just did in Photoshop with just like a round brush to kind of indicate the hills, and then I would go back in later over it, kind of with pointillism with the pencil tool, and make a pixel art version by hand. This is the Elder Hut. These guys are kind of like the old guys in the Muppets. So after you would die, it'll cut to the Elder Hut and they'll criticize your playability, in kind of a fun manner. This is just like a quest monolith. That's how you get quests. You see those in the game. And then that's a bonus room where if you find a rare enemy and kill it, it turns into a portal. And you can actually go in there and screw your civilization over by boosting that individual tribute. You sell the boon points ahead of time before dying. It's kind of like cheating death, which is good if you're like close to winning. Then you're like, okay, I can gamble and like use my boon points now and make this guy super strong and try and actually win. And then this is the Temple Zenith, where you would actually go into the world to play the game. And this is where all the relics are hanging out once you discover them. So, variety of objects. This is the boss area. So he would summon enemies in all of those summoning circles to attack you. So you're trying to kill those fairies, you're trying to shoot them. They're very small. You've got all the enemies that you've already fought now coming at you. If you're interested in good learning game design, I'm going to recommend a YouTube video by this guy Ego Raptor. It's totally silly. But Mega Man X, he breaks down how Mega Man X teaches you how to play without giving you any dialogue. You're like, press B to do this. You just like learn how to play the game by playing it. And that is in and of itself kind of a retro technique. Nowadays, like in Call of Duty, they just want to make sure you get through the game because they spent millions and millions of dollars on this thing. So they don't want it to be too hard, and then the reviews come out and say this game is like unplayable. We didn't really care about that. We wanted people to say that. We actually got some joy out of some reviews that were like, criticizing the difficulty. It's like, so these are some environments, and you can see with all of these things being animated, it can add up to thousands of frames of animation. This is just the warrior's death right here, and that's like a little screenshot of what it looks like in Photoshop, how I like kind of preview the animations. How it would work is basically I would send the artwork to Cody, the developer, and then I would give him notes and maybe like a little screenshot like this is the timing of the animation, and then he would integrate that within Unity to make the game. So with all of those assets, it seems like it could be insurmountable for one person to do it all, but it can be done. So this is how we did it. we basically made sure that we had regular project meetings, which some weeks, if it was a busy week, we would have them multiple times a day. Or if it was like slower and we knew exactly where we were going, we would say like, all right, let's just meet next week. And during this, we would have like a progress report where he would tell me like, this is how far I am in developing, you know, the programming the game. And I would, you know, show him what I was working on, and we would just do a little review session. We also use Trello for project management. Does anybody here use Trello? Great, yeah, Trello is a great cloud-based project management system. Can't recommend it enough. We would like also talk about like the logistics and the priority level of those. So obviously we would have pie in the sky ideas at the very beginning. Don't throw anything off. But then when it comes down to crunch time, it's like, do we really want to spend like 20 hours implementing this feature, or is nobody really going to know if we leave it out? You know, those kind of conversations. And the point of that is to create like a pre-cutting room floor. You know, so you're not investing in like the production time of actually making it and then being like, oh, this doesn't work, which we only had to do because there was only 2 of us. I'm sure the larger team would be more into like, just like, oh, let's see how it looks. But sometimes when you're a small team, that's kind of how you have to be very agile. And then we would try to increase the efficiency, basically, what did we just do, and how can we make that easier on ourselves in the future? And how we did that is we would ask ourselves, can we reuse assets? Like, is there art that's already made that we can recolor, you know, like the skin tones, so that we can create a wide variety without actually having to make new art? Another way that we reused assets is all of the levels are procedurally generated. So I would just make a bunch of, like, all the plants that you see. I basically just made 3 trees, 2 shrubs, and then a couple of walls, and then those were converted into tiles that within the game, Unity would actually just generate the levels in between each one. So you always had a new map every time. That saved hundreds of hours of us having to manually generate different, you know, levels. So once we got the ratio, and how that was done, just from a technical standpoint, it's called a Perl and noise filter. So it generated just like this black and white map, and then it would carve out little pathways for your character to run through. Can you automate? Back to the skin tones, I used Photoshop basically for that. I just set up a Photoshop action that said, look at this folder, open these files, try to find this color. When you find it, replace it with this color, save it in a new folder. So there's a lot of things that are buried within what I would call like everyday art software, you know, that you can utilize, you know, just basically let your computer do it. And the last thing, can you name your files properly, please? Like, this was actually like a huge efficiency problem with us because I could not get the hierarchy down, you know, and I learned, I mean, it makes sense, like when you're watching the console, you want there to be a proper hierarchy so you can know where to identify certain things. So, but yeah, organization is incredibly important. If you're working in a virtual space, you should think about it like a physical space, like where am I putting this thing? Am I just leaving it out, you know, for anybody to trip over? And then the other thing that we did during development was quality assurance. So we did routine play testing throughout development. About once a month, we would invite players of various skill levels and various gaming experiences to come over and play the game. Basically for the cost of pizza for the night, we were able to get a lot of good feedback from players. And we staggered the invitations to new players. So we had like a group of players that we started with, and we routinely invited them back so we could monitor, are they getting used to the game, are they learning the game, are they getting better? And then we also had a pool of new players that we would introduce that could give us honest feedback on things that we just introduced, you know, because sometimes the older players would say, well, I like how it was before. But we have to compare that with, you know, the new players and see, is this a legitimate thing, or is it just that they're used to playing like this, you know? Like one thing is A and B were flipped at the beginning, and we kept getting, you know, feedback on it, but we couldn't tell if it was like authentic feedback once we switched it, so the new players helped kind of sort that out. We also recorded their faces so that we could see the moments of like contention, you know, or joy when they were playing, and try and boost that, because at the end of the day, your game has to be fun. Like, that's what you want your game to be. You want it to be fun, and I hate to use the word, but addictive. You know, you don't want people to walk away from your game. So being able to just kind of study them and see where their interest is pipe is very valuable. And then we also had them answer a very pointed survey after each play session that asked them specific questions about things that we just introduced or enemy difficulty, anything that they had problems with. So once we finished the game, the next step was getting it through the Nintendo process to get it on their consoles. Like I said earlier, Cody had already showed them the game. They were very supportive of the idea. They're also a large company, and they have a very rigid set of technical standards, because they want the quality of what's on their consoles to be good. So I would just say, if you're into game development and you're interested in working with any of the large companies, you should expect and budget that into your timeline. That, there's just going to be a wealth of things that you probably don't know about if it's your first time, working with that company, related to like marketing materials, in-game guides, stuff like that. And they also asked us to defend certain design decisions in the game, like the start button thing. They were really upset about that. They were like, "Are you sure you want the player to die when they hit the start button?" And we were like, "Yes, that is not a mistake." And we were like, "Is this a bug?" No. So yeah, this was the phase of the project where we hit most of our setbacks, but they were very supportive, and the game, honestly, the game quality was brought up because of some of their criticism. So I can't really knock them on about it too much. All right, so the game is out. Now what? Now we have to think about how to market it. And if you haven't caught on by now, like, we're a very DIY-oriented group. Like, we didn't really go to a lot of outside help for a lot of things, and we had the same exact approach with our marketing as well. So we had we started things off with 2 launch parties for the game. We had one in Cape Coral at Nice Guys Pizza, and then one in Tallahassee where Cody lives at Fire Betty's. And then we tried to do like this kind of like cross-party competition type thing where we're giving out prizes based on high scores. It's pretty fun. We took the game on tour. So these are all the cities that we took. Now you'll see that this is in February. We actually launched the game in December of last year. We took the game on tour before we even did any other play testing. We wanted to, A, get like total strangers to play the game first before our friends or anybody that we know, so that we knew we were getting like honest feedback. And B, we were hoping that this would be such an out there concept, that we would pick up some press. And we did some interviews with like niche press, like Nintendo enthusiasts gave us like a really cool interview. They came out to our Toronto show and did a video interview with us for their YouTube channel. And then the reason I put this budget in here is just so you can see the total cost of this entire tour was $3,600, which is the equivalent of going to a large gaming convention like the Penny Arcade Expo or E3. So it was kind of like, do we want to go to one convention, or do we want to like do this kind of like old school Nintendo style Power to the Players tour that they would do when they like released new consoles and stuff, and hit up all of these different locations. And we had a wide variety of experiences. We hit retail spaces. That was actually an addition. Like, we were just, anytime we would go to a new town, we would get on Twitter and see where the gaming stores were, and so we'd go set up there for a little bit. So I was at a mall in Boston. And then Peter came on tour with us and like played the soundtrack of the game while people were playing the game, which I thought was incredible. I would love that experience if I was a player. And then there was, even the setbacks on tour were good. Like Baltimore, this was during the week, it was like the worst snowstorm in history. I don't know if you guys remember this in 2014, but our Baltimore show actually got canceled because they didn't want people driving in it. Like the snowstorm had just hit. So we were shacked up in a hotel, and we actually worked on development of the game at the hotel, and that's when we had all the voiceovers and stuff like that. So it kind of worked out to our advantage.
Do you have an ROI for that?
Was that?
Do you have an ROI for that tour?
I don't personally, just as the artist, but yeah.
You figured it out, I'm assuming, like, because that would be interesting to see, like 3,600 because that's reasonable, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like, I don't know, 10,000 downloads because of that or something.
Right, yeah. I don't know what the exact equation is, but he said it was a profitable enterprise, so yeah.
It's good enough.
We also submitted it to festivals, so this is Orlando IX. This is some print matter that we gave out that kind of shows like the relationship between the gamepad and the TV, and I kind of designed that to look like a old school NES comic book advertisements, you know. These are some players that we had here. We actually won runner-up fan favorite at Orlando X, and we only lost to Sword Coast Legends, which is an officially licensed Dungeons and Dragons game, so I don't feel too bad about it. And they also have like a development team of hundreds, so I feel like we brought it pretty well there. We also got invited out to Indiecade. I'll do a little time lapse here so you can see this. Indiecade is like kind of the Sundance of video games. So you have to be invited to show there. So we were an official selection. We're also the only game that was on a Nintendo platform that was invited that year. That was good. We scheduled interviews with the press while we were there. We got some previews written about the game, like press members got to play it for the first time, and network with other developers. So this is somebody playing the game there. You can see that we got some swag down there as well. And then we did some other conventions. This is at the Orlando Maker Fair. Is anybody here involved with the maker community at all? I would recommend it. There's a great Miami Maker Fair and then the Orlando Maker Fair. I mean, these are like very creative tech people. Like that's kind of their thing. They might not even be more entrepreneurial. They're just like idea people basically. So if you haven't been to the Orlando Maker Fair, that's in October usually. I think they're gonna have their 5th one. That one's great. This was at the Science Center. They've moved back over to the fairgrounds because they need more space. So they've got cool stuff like people playing guitars that are hooked up to Tesla coils and like all sorts of cool stuff. So we did that. We went to MegaCon. We had the game available to play at MegaCon and the Game Developers Conference as well. And then this is just some of the swag that we made. So yeah, we had koozies, buttons, t-shirts, hoodies, all sorts of stuff. So that was all the physical marketing that we did, like in person and stuff. We also hit the virtual marketing pretty hard. The important thing to know with marketing online is to know the audience for the community that you're marketing to, because people are very defensive against ads online, you know? And this is an ad, let's be honest. Like, you know, it's a GIF and it's video game related, but it's an ad and it needs to be treated like such. So Twitter is going to react very differently than Reddit is. You know, if I put this on Reddit, it's going to just get downvoted instantly. It's like it's too it's got the price on it. It's too obviously commercial. Whereas on Twitter, people go, "Oh, this is a good price, and that looks like a cool game. I'll retweet it." If you're going on Twitter, GIFs seem to I found have had the best response for marketing. Maybe video as well, but GIFs are very succinct, and for video games, you can put them in a loop pretty easily. And we also took advantage of hashtags on Twitter. So Throwback Thursday is a popular hashtag, and when you combine that with like hashtag game dev or indie dev, you're really focusing on your core audience that is going to be interested in the content. So we use Throwback Thursday to kind of showcase the concept art versus the final art, because at this point, like we've been marketing the game online, we developed a little bit of community. And I would recommend, any project that you're working on, document the process. You know, take pictures of yourself working on it, take screenshots of the early stuff, and then organize it then so that when it comes down to the end of the product, you know, you can put that all out there, you know, rapid fire basically, so you have a steady stream. Because especially with games, if you start marketing your game too much too early, people just lose interest. Once the game comes out, they say, I've seen it all, I don't even want to play it at this point, you know, I'm sick of seeing these screenshots. So that might not be the case with whatever other industries you're doing, but like I said, I think just documenting everything and then just having like a catalog of marketing materials that you can go back to later is good. We also created our own hashtags. So Tome Tuesday was one that we made, and it's called Tome Tuesday because when you die in the game, your character's name gets logged in a Tome of Tributes, which is basically your score screen. You can also go back and look at them later, so if you want to memorialize the tributes individually, you can do that. But you can kind of see in the background here, you get like a kill count, the boon points that you earned, and the time. So what we would do is we would say, hey, post screenshots from your tome of your best run, and then we'll collect them, and we'll tag you in it, and at the end of the week. So this was like a little campaign that we did when we first launched. And we also combined that with Miiverse Monday, which was a similar idea, except we were taking our favorite Miiverse content from the week and promoting it. Now, what's Miiverse? Miiverse is a place on Nintendo's platform where players can talk exclusively about your game. So you would have there's a message board component here where you could share tips or try and figure some stuff out. And then you can also do some silly stuff like post drawings and stuff like that. And that was, as an artist, that's heartwarming. It's to see fan art or I guess satirical art of your game. It's just oh man, I did that when I was a kid. It's great.
That wasn't bad though.
What?
That wasn't dad. At least
Dad, yeah. Well, yeah, that was my dad. No, that would be too heartwarming. Yeah, and we kept the development blog on Tumblr, which is a great platform for Wii U players, and it makes sharing the content very easy, reblogging it. And then we just used the tags on Tumblr to create these links, so that if you wanted to look at all the videos, it would just point to all the posts that are tagged video. So it's kind of like having a little mini website that you don't actually have to build the framework of. And then a year ago today, we did a Reddit AMA on the Wii U subreddit, and that was a great way to kind of increase visibility for our game as well, right around launch time. We also used Press Kit by Rami Ismail, who is the head of this hit indie game studio called Vlambeer. So he saw a need for people. Saw a need for people they were making their own press kits and getting caught up in making this website. Basically, this is just a tool where in a half hour you can put together a website that has all the press materials that you could need. So when you're contacting press, you can just say, everything you need is on this website. It's got all of our accolades, screenshots, logo downloads, everything you would need to kind of craft a blog post or something you can do using Press Kit. And that's how we utilize it. We would just cold email gaming journalists. We would see who's active on Twitter, who's writing about roguelikes, just kind of dial into this person seems like the type of person that's going to want to write about our game. We made a list, cold email all of them. Whatever interested responses we got, we would give them a code so that they could download the game, and then eventually that filters down into actual results, and we would get press writing about it. My favorite is we got a favorable review from Vice, which I was pretty proud of. The rest of the critical reception wasn't great, to be honest, but the player feedback was good, and I like Vice, so I was satisfied with that. And then we also got a little bit of the holy grail, which are streamers. If you're making a game and you want to get visibility, if you can get people streaming your game, it's the best, because they're distributing the idea for your game and marketing it for you. And they're also making it look really fun usually, because they're trying to drive their engagement in their own channels. So they're selling it hard for you, basically. So yeah, that was great too. So the takeaways, sales-wise, we had a strong launch and a consistent tail on that. So that's what we could hope for. We're debating whether or not right now it's worthwhile to add more content to the game to try and boost sales, if it's worth the time, or if we should concentrate on other stuff. As far as my first time experience in game development goes, it was pretty complex, but I discovered that there's a lot of tools that make it easier, like these Photoshop automation, and I was mentioning earlier Hazel's another great piece of software. That's a Mac-only piece of software, but you can basically just monitor files and then use that with Automator or something in Mac to run different scripts on your files. I learned a lot about asset management, organization, and even some new stuff about animation. This was the first time I ever worked in pixel art, so I was kind of learning that at the same time too. I'm used to just drawing everything. So figuring out how to animate pixel art was kind of a challenge. And last, I got to say that I worked on a Nintendo game, which is pretty cool amongst people my age. So that's all there is to my presentation. If anybody has any questions, though, I'd be happy to answer some of those. Yeah.
So what are you doing now? You still doing it, or are you doing something else?
No, right now I'm basically trying to move into 3D. So my personal pet project that I'm working on is 3D scanning at home. So just using a digital SLR to take a bunch of pictures of an object and then use some software to turn it into a 3D object, so that I could I'm trying to hack learning how to model by hand. Even though I'll end up probably learning some of that anyway, just by dint of doing that. So yeah, just looking for opportunities, cool opportunities. That's how I got on this thing. It was just like, oh, this sounds like a cool thing to do.
How long did it took you? When did you start? When did you end?
Started in September 2014 doing concept art, and then the game was, we finished development in October, and then it was released in December. So almost a little over a year of development time.
Hour-wise? How many hours?
Hour-wise, it was, I actually haven't done like the breakdown of the math, I guess I don't, I took shares and didn't do like a wage, so I was just like working my ass off basically, because I wanted to look good. So I haven't done the math on that, but there were some weeks where I was putting in, probably like minimal 10 hours, and then some weeks where there was like crunch and we had a festival or something we wanted to build for, where I was, doing like 30 or 40 hours a week. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but a lot.
I'm stuck at the start button, guys. What was the strategy to that? I mean,
So all right. So from a game design standpoint, it's to increase the emotional tension in the player. It's to feel like I can't set this controller down right now. I have to finish this. I've been working on this. It makes everything. It just heightens the tension of every.
so going back to the addictive part, Mom called me, I'm stuck here.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, just
It's 8
again, we hadn't seen that mechanic in where there was just like a straight up suicide button that was also the pause button. Where that's like the safe spot on the controller.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the idea behind that, and then we're just pranksters at heart, so it's just fun to imagine that.
How was the feedback to that?
More negative than positive. Yeah, okay, so in our Nintendo enthusiast interview, the guy interviewing us brought that up, and I don't know, we just enjoy it. That's one thing I'll always refuse to apologize to that.
That's great.
Did you guys build cheat codes in? Sorry.
Initially we did, but I think they're all taken out, but since I didn't program the game, I can't be certain. He seems like the kind of person that would bury Easter eggs in there. So I haven't discovered anything. But yeah, we totally had a boon point cheat code where just cycle your score up so that we could get through, during play testing, get through the game quicker. So we didn't want to play for an hour. We designed it to be difficult. So we had to build ourselves a little god mode basically.
Yeah, how long did it take the process of going through Nintendo and getting accepted and that kind of stuff?
That was, it was pretty easy actually. So there was a lot of non-committal information on their part, just this is a good idea, you should pursue this, And they had at the time, the new development portal is actually a lot more accessible than the one that we did. And the one that we did was pretty accessible. You basically just apply, you say, this is my game idea. And if they like the idea, you don't even have to show them anything. They'll let you in, you have to sign an NDA, and then all the stuff that I can't talk about because of that afterwards. But yeah, very accessible. They're probably the easiest entry point to indie game development outside of mobile, as far as consoles go. But Sony is very indie friendly, and I don't know any indie developers that prefer Xbox, but they all go on anyway because why not? If you're developing for Sony, it's just a couple different clicks on your export if you're in Nindie. So yeah, it was just one of those things where they just followed us throughout the year. We just kept in contact with them. We went out to GDC. We scheduled a meeting with them just to kind of do a status update and see if we were going to, work with them on marketing or anything. But really, that was way outside of their scope for us, I think. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we work with a French company, and they worked with game developers. And basically, what they did is created these algorithms so that the gamer loyalty never faded or actually increased, because there were certain frustration levels beyond which they just dropped the game.
Right.
So basically, these guys figured out those kinds of ways where somehow you got a additional little help, so that you get a little bit, because when you try a level 40, 50 times or more, and there was a certain point of frustration which you're just not gonna go beyond.
Right.
So these guys created those kind of algorithms where that loyalty never faded, but just helped them through, and then next level.
It's a delicate balance, and we were totally algorithmless.
Okay.
We were without algorithm for that. So yeah, that's where we just relied on like the raw player feedback,
But did you experience that kind of that it was way too difficult, that people just dropped the game because it was way too difficult?
We never got any direct feedback like emails, or at least I didn't see anything that was like asking for a refund because the game was too difficult or anything like that.
Not necessarily refund, but how many people how many people actually stuck with the game over extended amount of time?
Yeah, I don't have access to those metrics, and I don't know if I'm not certain we could get that based on the analytics that we get from the gameplay. We get sales analytics and stuff like that, but as far as like hours played, I don't think we have that. We just have to rely on like whatever feedback we get through text, like if it was on Miiverse or something. Sometimes this interesting thing is we also modeled the game to be more like those old school games, so we didn't like really hold their hand through it. Like when you fight the boss, you don't know that. Alright, so once you kill all the boss's fairies, he like erupts into flames and becomes, you might have seen the giant flaming head like shooting fireballs. And we never say you can't kill this thing. Like, it just chases you around until it kills you. And when we brought it to a festival, we watched this guy like try to kill this thing for like 10 minutes. He was just perfectly evading it so that it never killed him, even though that's what it's trying to do. Because the game is about human sacrifice, so even if you win, he didn't realize that like if you just die, you win. So there's moments like that are interesting, and sometimes we could get something on Miiverse where it's like, can you kill the boss? And it's like, just die.
Just die,
Yeah.
finally. But are you thinking of a 2.0 version?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about all sorts of ideas. But he just had another kid this year, and he was also just in like he got hit on his bicycle, so he's recovering right now. So we'll probably talk about that more in the new year.
Maybe that could be built into the game.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we've talked about that we really want to do is like a multiplayer, like a one-on-one multiplayer where you go into the dungeon, and it's your tribute versus somebody else's tribute, and you might have all the benefits from your personal game.
So from anywhere in the world, you can play multiplayer type of deal.
Yeah, and I know he's been looking into that, like server-wise and stuff like that, but we don't have any plans right now to like actually begin legitimate development on that. That's possible. I'd like to go back and like work on that card game that I was working on again. That's kind of my next personal goal. But if he comes back and says, "Let's do it,"
What's the card game about?
It's called Slurth, and you play out the life of a sloth on planet Slurth. So it's a set collection game where basically you want to draw from the pile and get 3 level 1 cards, and all the level 1 cards are things that like sloths do. You sleep a lot. It's like a very personality-driven game. And then the second level cards are things that all like human babies do, like you learn to walk upright, you learn to talk. And then the third level is things that humans do, like, oh, you get a job as a sloth graphic designer, and this cute little giant sloth graphic designer.
So how do you come up with the game logic for the previous game or for this game? Are you the only one who is figuring out the game logic, or there are others who play or work with you?
So he had already built that prototype, so the core game loops were already designed, and then we would just kind of spitball ideas off of each other, and anything that like landed with both of us, he would actually like program. So like, all right, let's take.
Okay, so for that one, there was already a game logic developed.
Yes.
But otherwise, for this one, you are the one who is actually creating the game logic.
Right. So yeah, my whole process with that was, I wanted to make a card game that would be like under $10 price point, like that. So very simple to play. So you could like take it to a bar if you wanted, you know, and you'd only have like 9 cards in front of you. It wasn't like a complex European style game. And then also just start with the core mechanic. You have to figure out like what the core mechanic is. So like for Temple of Yog, the core mechanic was the screen swapping. So anything that we added after that, which was, I mean, that's basically what the prototype was just like, this is the loop, you play, you die, there was like, you know, there wasn't like that distinct enemies, the enemies didn't shoot anything, it was just kind of like, this is like the idea of this core mechanic. Anything that you add after that should enhance that core mechanic. Otherwise, it's something that will make your game boring. So with Slurth, the core mechanic is just the set collection thing. And I knew because I didn't want to make it a complex game that all you would need is that core mechanic, a couple different cards that would, you know, drive engagement, like attacking other players or slowing down other players, something to get like kind of the social aspects, so you're not just like doing your own solitaire thing. And then just like focusing on like making some like funny sloth drawings, and kind of like sell it at the end.
And did you write a script for you know the screens and how the flow is going? So there was some kind of, for the whole story there was a script written, or it was just, you know, as it came.
I was personally pushing for like a very direct narrative in the game, but we didn't explore that. So there was no script for the story of the game. No, there was a premise, and then we wrote a script for the dialogue for the elders.
Okay.
You know, so that there would be kind of that dialogue, and then when you interact with the boss, there's also a script there, scripted moments there. But everything else is pretty much action oriented in the game. But as far as like the game loop and stuff, yeah, there's like a lot of notebooks filled with diagrams. Like this screen connects to this screen, which has to have these elements. You know, and that's.
I mean, that's the game logic. So
Right.
so basically, you develop the game logic and the scripts along those various screens.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, the dialogue, like, we almost like, since it wasn't an integral part to the game, we almost considered that like polish. Like, so it was like, we'll do that at the end, you know, once we get like all the meat of the development out of the way, and then later on we'll, you want to build about like 10% of your time, of your development time to go back and just make everything look great. You know, like, all right, we've got everything working and functioning now let's go back and just like raise the quality bar, all the effects and artwork and stuff like that. So we kind of built it into that because we knew that there wasn't that much.
So bottom line, do you play that game? And have you learned, like, go back and you play and go, oh man, if we did it this way.
Oh man, I don't think if we did it this way, because yeah, I'll get totally sad. It's a hard game, and I played it so much during development that you hit those moments where you're starting to question everything. You're like, is this even good? Like, what am I doing? Like, this might not even be that good of an idea. And that's when you really need to like go back and like look at your player feedback, you know, and stuff like that, and kind of give yourself a boost. And also having little moments like where you're like talking to press and trying to get previews and stuff, and having encouragement from outside sources is really nice, because if you're, you know, just locked up drawing or programming, you can get inside your own head a lot. So yeah.
I want to add on to this. I completely agree, and I would support that 100%. And you know, if you don't have a working product out there yet, so while you were in development, he was making the point that they did a ton of user testing, right? Like they got friends, family, strangers, I don't know who in, and had them play the game. The same applies to pretty much any idea. If you develop a product or, you know, software, whatever you do, get out there and get user feedback. Do a ton of user testing. And then when you hit that point, and I've been personally at that point multiple times myself, where you question everything and you just be like, I don't know, I think I just convinced myself, go back to that, right? Like, or go out again and talk to people, because it's not what you think. It's if the people out there think you have something valuable.
Yeah, and we also try to get that feedback after every like major iteration as as well. So anytime we made like a significant change, you know, we'd get feedback on that and either roll it back or, you know, continue forward based on the feedback that we got. So design by iteration.
There's something that we do on web applications that is called user stories, where you start everything from that, like just you put yourself as what a user would want, and then you get the other person to say, what would you like as a user before you even start building anything. Because a lot of times, just programmer thinks, you know, this is what it should be, like you say, this is what it should be, and you don't even think what the other person actually wants.
Right.
So, yeah, that's...
Yeah. There was actually, oh man, I can't remember if it was last week or like a podcast I listened to like right that same day. But they were talking about basically designing to your specific users, not to your average user. And that there's that because you're going to get the average user anyway. It's kind of like the idea of designing towards accessibility, you know? Actually with this game, so the whole blue thing, you know, on that second screen, that was like an artistic nightmare because I've got like friends that I play video games with that are colorblind, and some games that we play, it's like they have to be player 2, because if they're player 3, their player indicator will match the color of the football pitch, you know, and then they can't see their character, so they're like totally useless. So I thought about Joe when I was working on this game, you know, like how is Joe going to see it? Luckily, Photoshop again has like a color blindness filters that you can pop on and off to see that, but using that and then thinking about the 2 different color spaces at the same time, so that everything like the UI is, you know, available to colorblind players that are looking at the TV or at the screen of multiple types. Photoshop actually made it very easy to check for that just by like turning on like, you know, a couple layers and options. So, and actually I wrote an essay about that and put it on to this industry blog, Kama Sutra. And it circulated among the accessibility community. We picked up some fans because I wrote this article, so it does make a difference.
I believe that article is on the Meetup.
Yeah, it is, yeah. You can read about that. It's all about how it's got comparisons. It shows the Photoshop filter, turning it on and off, a simulation of colorblind players. So.
That's cool.
Would you call it a success?
Yeah.
How many copies have you sold?
I can't talk about it.
How you measure success?
Well, I can't talk about it. I mean, I know.
But he knows.
If it's a strong launch.
Someone coming now today here, looking at you and, okay, a year of investment, time, money, whatever it is, does it make?
For me, no, based on my share total, but the game itself did well, yeah. The game itself was a success.
So Nintendo is happy.
So,
Yes.
no, maybe the other value.
I'm happy enough. I didn't, you know, I took the shares and I invested a lot of personal time in it.
Yeah.
You know, but I do feel like I got advantages outside of like a monetary success from it. So
Yeah.
So that's what I measure.
Right.
yeah.
Did the licensing and going to merchandising for the
Yeah, that was part of my deal too. Is that I am like the sole merchandiser of. Yeah.
That's
So
really
any
yeah. You know,
hoodies, t-shirts.
for
Nice.
the sale of the game, yeah, but you know, that little knick-knack keychain thing, I mean, that's, you know, $5.99 a clip. I mean, I'm all for it.
Right.
That's the money maker right
Kids love swag.
there.
That's for sure.
Nintendo doesn't get anything from that, no?
What's that?
Nintendo doesn't get anything.
No. So Nintendo, like, the game is owned independently, and Nintendo licenses the game to sell on their system. So they have no interaction with merchandise.
So you have your own e-commerce and all.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's
The
actually.
use of their logo or anything like that comes with any, I don't know, monetary cost?
No. So that's
Once they license the game, you have the right to go.
Right.
Nice.
yeah.
So they didn't take a dime?
Not on merchandise.
Put on the game itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, NDA, so I can't talk about that split, but there's
No,
they're not going.
Yeah.
They're not
It's a minimum of
going to
50%, that's okay. You know, I can say you can't.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very
Thank you.
entertaining. So I would, talking about, you know, how
Adventuringcompany.com.
adventuringcompany.com and
I
buy a
forgot my
hoodie
cards.
or a keychain, something.
Yeah, there's tons of original art on there as well. Like if you're into like art history, or I do a lot of Dungeons and Dragons related art as well.
Where is it? I mean, that's the last slide anyway, so. Yeah, thanks for coming out. That's pretty much it. You're welcome to hang out a couple of minutes here. Peter will kick us out eventually. But then we're going to go over to the United Ale House. As I was mentioning before, they're going to cut us a happy hour pricing deal again. And if you do want to come out, then see me, because we have those nifty little tickets which show them who you are.
Great.
And then I will wrap it up with saying thanks for coming, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If I don't have the answer, I'm happy to make a connection with someone else in the group who might have the answer. That's what it's all about.
Great.
Great job.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sven. Sven.